Hey, Stevie GB here. All right. I keep hearing from my liberal friends that Donald Trump is divisive. He's dividing the country, screaming about Democrats, screaming about democratic cities. For years, as a liberal growing up, Democrat, I guess, I voted Democrat for Jimmy Carter. And now later in my life, I've decided to become more conservative in my views. And as a conservative, I don't tell people I'm conservative. You know why? Because conservatives are painted as racist, homophobic, misogynistic, xenophobic, white supremacists, overly religious, right? Right wing religious fanatics, gun toting. We love guns and Bibles. We hate gays. We hate every minority. I mean, Republicans and conservatives have been divided by the liberal left wing Democratic Party for a pretty long time now, right? Certainly during the Bush two. I think it started during GW. George W. Bush was really the beginning of the division. And that division was brought on not by right wing conservatives, extremists, as you call them, but by the left wing. Hollywood celebrities, talk show hosts. How many times did I hear about George W. Bush being stupid, being a warmonger, destroying this country? Everything was his fault. Obama spent 8 years blaming Bush for everything. Now we got a Republican in office, and he's pointing out that Democrats are the problem. But is he calling them horrible names? Yeah, of course he is. Yeah, he likes to pick on people, but he's calling individuals names. He's not getting with a whole. Can you name one thing that Donald Trump has said about an entire group of people? No. He calls crooked Hillary. He even made fun of Republicans, little Marco, low energy Jeb. Those were Republicans. He attacks people. He doesn't attack groups. He doesn't label a whole group of people, right? When he says there's violence in democratic cities, there's truth to that. When he says that the Democrats are not doing the right thing for the country, there's proof of that. Nancy Pelosi holding back bills for political reasons. Chuck Schumer, who's been in, these people have been in office for New York. I live in New York. We've got a Democratic mayor, Bill de Blasio. Everybody equally hates this guy. He's the most undivisive guy because everybody hates him on both sides. He's a terrible, terrible mayor. Now, that doesn't knock every liberal. I'm not saying anything about liberals in New York City or Democrats or people who vote Democrat. I'm talking about Bill de Blasio. Our governor, Andrew Cuomo, terrible, terrible governor. His budgets are way off. He's a terrible manager of the budget. He has been for a long time. New York is a mess under Governor Cuomo. Total mess. And both sides know this. If Cuomo was a Republican, he'd still be a bad guy. And now he's telling people not to take the vaccine that's coming out under the Trump administration. It can't be trusted. You can't trust Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, the biggest pharmaceutical countries run by the best doctors and scientists in probably the whole world. No, Cuomo says he's going to run a task force of Northwell Health experts from Northwell Health, which is a company on Long Island. I don't even know where they're located there, but we're not going to trust anything that Trump did. We're going to double check the vaccine because people are going to be afraid to take a vaccine that comes out of the Trump administration. You know what Cuomo's doing. He's looking for a job in the Biden administration. He's already been promised one. This is all political. So they want people to not take the vaccine and spread this virus and kill more people. Cuomo's already got a record for killing 11,000 people in nursing homes. So you trust a guy that killed 11,000 seniors to handle the vaccine that's coming out. He's trustworthy. He's a terrible, terrible, terrible person. And he just so happens to be a Democrat. That's not divisive. That's the truth. Chuck Schumer is a Democrat in our city. Chuck Schumer's been in government for 40 something years. I've hated Chuck Schumer for 25 years. I've known this. I picked up on what this guy does. He's Captain Obvious. He'll come out and say the airlines need to do more about regulations when they've already done the regulations. And then he comes up with ideas that are already been implemented and then takes credit for the idea that was there before. It's like he's the worst person you've ever worked with in a company. If you work in an office, you know that one person that takes credit for everything you do? That's what Schumer is. He's a credit taker. He's a grandstander. He's a politician. The man is garbage. And I don't care if he's Republican or Democrat. Chuck Schumer is a piece of crap. Kristen Gillibrand is our other senator. Where is she? She's invisible. She ran for president for 5 minutes, and I don't even see her now. She's working on some 9/11 bill for the fire pits, and that's been worked on forever. She's doing nothing. She's completely useless. These people go into government and do nothing and then take credit for other people's work. These are garbage people. They're corrupt. Think about it. What does it take to become a politician? If I wanted to run for town council, and I've thought about it, what do I have to do? I have to set up a fundraiser, right? I have to beg people for money to help me run. And when people give you money, what do they want? They want something in return. So when you get money from these companies and people and executives and millionaires and billionaires, they want something in return. They want contracts for their businesses. They want something. That's called corruption. And that runs so deep in government that anybody that's been in government for 30, 40, 50 years, it becomes a way of life. So your Schumers, your Pelosi, your Biden, all of them. Cuomo, total 100% corrupt people. They're crooks, they're criminals, they're doing stuff that you would make your skin crawl. And you know what? There are just as many crooked Republicans. I'm talking about any politician that's been there more than 20 years. We need term limits. That should be the most important thing. Trump has talked about it. It'll never happen because they won't agree to it. We need term limits. You serve for 8 years and you're out. Then they don't have to focus on getting rehired. Get out. Go work for a private company. That's what most of them do. They leave public service and they work for a private company and they're fine. They'll make just as much money, if not more. They go on tour, they write books, they go on talk shows. I don't care what they do. I don't care what they do. But the corruption is so deep in government. And you know this is true. You know it's true. So Trump is not dividing Democrat people and Republican people. He's going after the Democrat politicians that run these cities into the ground. Go to New York, go to New York City, go to a Broadway show. Oh, you can't. Go to a restaurant. Oh, you can't. How much further can this go on before New York is totally destroyed? New York. I grew up here. I've never lived anywhere else. I don't even want to go to the city. I would cry. I know for a fact that I would cry. And we're using a virus with a 98% success rate. 1.1% is the number in New York with the daily death tally. This is sick, people. This is sick. And if Biden gets in, first of all, he'll only be in for like a month and we'll have Harris. And what is she talking about? Today, she's on the news spouting this nonsense that there's voter suppression in minority areas. How can that be? You go on Facebook every day and it says, did you register to vote? Why can't they go register to vote? You know how much activity there is in these minority communities to get people to register? Some of them don't want to register. They don't want to be located. And this is everybody across the board. Same thing with the census. The census was up in April, and then they kept extending it and extending it. If they don't want to fill out the census, they're never going to fill out the census. You can extend it till 2025. There are people that don't want to be found. They want to stay off the grid. Why? Maybe some criminal behavior. They're afraid. What are they afraid of? Donald Trump is not divisive. I refuse, and I'm not being an apologist, maybe a little bit. I love the guy. I'm not afraid to admit it because to me, he talks like a regular person. When Biden talks, when he answers a question, I don't even know what he's talking about. Kamala Harris comes up with these conspiracy theories that make no sense to me. They make zero sense to me. None. I'm a conservative. I'm not a racist. I'm not a white supremacist. I'm not a xenophobic. I'm not homophobic. I don't hate anybody. But I do hate that people think I hate everybody. That's pretty sad. And I've got friends that are liberals and Democrats, and I still love them. And if Trump loses, I'm not going to cry in the street that this is the end of the world. I'm going to be a little upset. And you know what? I'll probably never watch any news channels ever again because I will pretty much disengage from any political discourse or anything political at all. Donald Trump turned a lot of people on to politics. My mother in law, who never had one iota of interest in politics, loves Trump, watches all his rallies. She registered to vote. She's 83 years old. She has never voted in her whole life. She registered this year so she could vote for Donald Trump. And she's not alone. This guy's going to win. There's no way he's not going to win. First of all, everybody that supported him in 2016 will support him in 2020. Not everybody. Let's say 80%, 90%. I think it's probably close to 90% will support him, will vote for him again. And maybe he'll lose 10%. So what are those 10% people going to do? They're going to vote for Biden? Let's say half of them vote for Biden and the other half won't vote at all. So there's people out there that just give up or they'll vote independent, throw their vote away. But this guy has gained more support from the Black community and the Latino community than any Republican candidate ever has before. That's going to bring him over the top. And people like my mother-in-law who never, ever voted. So he's going to get the never voted, the Black community. 50 Cent just came out. Ice Cube came out. These people are coming out. And if they're coming out, there's still many more hidden in the shadows. I think there's more closet conservatives than there are closet homosexuals at this point, especially in Hollywood. I know some Hollywood people that are voting Republican. I met a couple. I won't give out their names because they're afraid to say it. They call it the shy vote. People that are afraid to say who they're voting for. Thank God they don't know who we vote for, although they probably do. But you talk about suppression. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Trump 2020 rant over.